From Liverpool now, where we have been hearing from families of the victims. They're giving their reaction to this verdict. As I mentioned earlier on, this is the second time David Duckenfield has faced trial. The jury in that first trial unable to return a unanimous verdict, found not guilty today. As it stands, to this day, 30 years on, no one has been held liable in a criminal court for the deaths of the 96. Let's listen in to the family press conference.
First and foremost is thank an awful lot of people who supported the families for just on 31 years now. And there's so many people I need to name. So for those I forget, please, you're not forgotten. We truly, truly thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our supporters of our club, our survivors who supported us from day one. Also the people of our city who's been tremendous. They didn't come years later. From the very beginning, they believed in us. So I thank all of them. I also like to thank the HIP for what it achieved on behalf of the families, for the chair, Bishop James Jones, for the panel, for Phil Scraton. I'd like to thank Operation Resolve for all the hard work that they have done as well. They really did do a lot of hard work for us to get where we were at the inquest, the last inquest in 2016. I do not blame any of them. I do not blame the IOPCC for what went wrong today. I do not blame even the Crown prosecution. I blame a system that's so morally wrong within this country, that's a disgrace to this nation. When 96 people, they say 95, we say 96, were unlawfully killed, and yet not one person is accountable. The question I'd like to ask all of you, and people within a system, then who put the 96 in their graves? Who is accountable for 96 unlawfully killed? What a disgrace this has been today, and what a shame on this country of ours. I feel so embarrassed to say that is the system within our country. I'm really angry. I'm trying to be calm for the sake of these families who suffered so much. For 30-odd years, they have suffered. They've gone through hell. They've gone through all kinds. The people we've lost along the way. We've lost so many good family members. Now, my concern is that these families, I look at their faces. Please, God, give them some peace. They deserve it. Most importantly, them 96 deserve it. And they deserve something from this country that was morally right. As far as I'm concerned, and I am starting to get angry now, that was a kangaroo court that we've all sat through. There was so much evidence that could have been brought forward that was not allowed. It was not allowed. And I'd like to know if the jury saw the Taylor report. If they'd gone through that, there couldn't have been any other verdict. There couldn't have been any other verdict but guilty. We all know who's guilty. The families know who's guilty. Our city know who's guilty. He can walk around now and get on with his life with a not guilty verdict. To me, that is a disgrace. If things had gone right on that day, he'd have took all the praise and nobody else would have been involved. He'd have took all the praise. Because things went so wrong, he's not at fault. Others are. Yes, there is others. We all know there's others in the fray. Sheffield Wednesday got away with it. The FA's got away with it. The City Council got away with it. How can 96, I ask all of you, how can 96 be unlawfully killed and no one be accountable? Please give us the answer. Who unlawfully killed my son along with 95 others. And I think now, what we've got to try and do is change a system that's in this country that is so wrong. Because if that can happen to 96, what could happen to individuals who are fighting on their own? They have no chance if that's happened to us. So I think it's an absolute bloody disgrace and things need to change. I can stand over to somebody else.
I'd like to add to Margaret's little speech. I'd like to thank the wonderful barristers that we had for our inquest that made available every one person's individual journey. They weren't lumped together as 96, as they have been over the years. We all had our own individual inquest. We all found out what happened to our own individual person. And to me, I'll never forget those barristers. They were wonderful.
Okay, Steve. Steve?
Okay. Thanks. Being very angry, I've prepared a statement that I'd like to read from. I don't normally like to read from statements, but I felt I had to prepare this. Otherwise, my anger probably would have gotten the better of me. I believe the die was cast many years ago, so today's decision was no surprise. If the evidence uncovered by the Hillsborough Independent Panel report would have been available in a private prosecution back in 2000, I believe Duckenfield would have been convicted then. We have sat here through 2 trials, and Duckenfield's only 2 friends in court were 2 words. Those 2 words were foresight and hindsight. His legal team depended on them with lashings of repetition for his post-traumatic stress disorder, being used as a tool for a sympathetic catch by the jury. Ben Myers QC invited the jurors to look at the state of him during his summing up. Even when many family members and survivors of Hillsborough were sitting in Preston Crown Court and here in Liverpool Cunard building, as ever, showing their remarkable courage and love for the people they lost. Never once having their plight carried over 30 years labour to the jury for a sympathetic ear. I refer to Barry Devonside, Trevor Hicks and Dolores Steele. The jury were advised by Sir Peter Openshaw that Duckenfield may not show any emotion during Mrs Steele's evidence, a favour never given or sought by families, giving evidence who I am certain know only too well all about post-traumatic stress disorder. Foresight and hindsight are both wonderful things, yet the majority of Duckenfield's evidence and statements...
Families involved in the Hillsborough disaster of 1989 giving their reaction to the breaking news this afternoon of a not guilty verdict delivered involving the man who was in charge of match-day operations for the police on that fateful day. We can speak to Caterina Vitozzi now, who's outside Preston Crown Court, where the verdict was delivered a little more than an hour ago now, Caterina. And it's incredibly moving listening to those families, because for 30 years they've been looking for justice, and after 30 years, nobody has been held liable in a criminal court for the death of 96 football fans.
Yeah, I think that was a sentiment that was immediately voiced behind me in Preston Crown Court when that not guilty verdict came in. A family member who's been here pretty much every day over the 6-week trial, standing up, which you're not meant to do, obviously, during a Crown Court proceeding. I'm meant to hear the verdict pretty much in silence. Stood up and asked the judge, Sir Peter Openshaw, who will be responsible now that this not guilty verdict has been given to David Duckenfield. Duckenfield. However, that is the verdict, not guilty for that gross negligence manslaughter charge for David Duckenfield, who left pretty quickly after the verdict was given through quite a discreet entrance here at Preston Crown Court. He showed relatively little emotion as the verdict was given. He sat just with his hands crossed in front of him, although he did hug his wife. And in the last few minutes, we've had a statement from his legal team, which says David is, of course, relieved that the jury has found him not guilty. However, his thoughts and sympathies remain with the families of those who lost their loved ones. He understands the public interest in this case, but would ask that his privacy and that of his family is respected, and will not be commenting further. For David Duckenfield, this is the second criminal trial on this gross negligence manslaughter charge that he has faced. The first one ended last year with the jury simply unable to come to a verdict, neither guilty nor not guilty, which led to this second trial, which the jury had been deliberating since Monday. They went out on Monday afternoon, and earlier today the judge said that he would accept a majority decision, meaning not all of them had to come to a consensus, but he would take a majority decision. And then about an hour after that, they came back with this not guilty verdict. So David Duckenfield leaving here knowing that this criminal case for him is over. But as you said, the families immediately after the verdict was given, and now seeing that press conference coming from those families who are watching this trial here in Preston via a video link in Liverpool. As you say, extremely emotional, extremely raw, I think, showing that there is very little that the passage of time does to assuage deep sense of loss, a deep sense of anger, when for 30 years the families say they've been campaigning for a justice that many feel for them hasn't been delivered today. But David Duckenfield, as you heard from that statement from his legal team, saying that of course he is relieved by the jury's not guilty verdict, but that his thoughts are with them after that decision by the jury here at Preston Crown Court today.
Katerina Vitozzi with the update from Preston Crown Court. Thank you very much. A recap of that breaking news this afternoon. The match commander at Hillsborough on that fateful day back in 1989, David Duckenfield, has been found not guilty of gross negligence manslaughter. A retrial has cleared David Duckenfield of the deaths of fans at the football disaster in 1989. 95 Liverpool fans dying on that day. The majority verdict from the jury at Preston Crown Court this afternoon marks a big setback for the bereaved families who we were hearing from a short time ago, who have campaigned for over 30 years for justice for the Liverpool 96. To this date, 30 years on, nobody has been held liable for their deaths in a criminal court.